Hiya, I'm here today to talk to you about borderline personality disorder, which, if you're in the UK, is referred to as emotional intensity disorder. It's a very controversial mental illness, and I thought I would do a video to try and maybe reduce some of the stigma and hopefully allow you to understand, even if it's just a little bit, what it's like to have such an illness. In reference to Mind, the mental health charity, some of the symptoms, if you suffer from a personality disorder, are as follows. You have emotions that are up and down. For example, you might be feeling confident one day and feeling despair another. And coincided with that is often feelings of emptiness and often anger. And you can even go to the extent that these emotions will appear, maybe all 4 or 5 of them, in the space of 10 minutes. When it comes to relationships, you find it extremely difficult to make and maintain relationships, because you go from idolizing that person and thinking they are the best things from sliced bread, to suddenly thinking that they're the worst person and that they're out to get you, they're slagging you off behind your back. You just get all these peculiar ideas, and then it can go back to idolization again. So you can see why it can be difficult to maintain relationships. You can have an unstable sense of identity, such as thinking differently about yourself depending on who you are with. So, for example, you could look in the mirror one day and go, well, actually, I'm not that ugly, I'm not that fat, I'm okay, I'm good. 10 minutes later, you could look in the mirror again and go, oh my god, I am so fat, I'm as big as a house, I'm the ugliest person in the world. And you truly believe this. And it's really debilitating, because you're going from 1 minute thinking you're okay to the next minute thinking you're the worst person in the world, and it makes you feel like shit, basically. You also find that if you have a personality disorder, you can take risks or do things without thinking of the consequences. So you could be maybe smoking cannabis, doing drugs, shoplifting, jumping off high cliffs or into the water. The list is endless. But you suddenly get this idea in your head and you're like, do you know what? That's a brilliant idea, I'm going to go and do it. And obviously tying in with that, the other issue that borderlines have is that they get these ideas in their head and that's it. You've got to do them. So you could be minding your own business and suddenly go, oh my god, I really want to go out on a shopping spree. So off you go and you spend lots of money, you don't think of the consequences, and then end up in debt. That's a very common one that happens with people with a personality disorder, because they only think of the here and now, not what the future would be and how it may affect their future. Very common also with personality disorders is that you can harm yourself, you can think about self-harm, and that's things such as self-harming, cutting, taking overdoses, burning yourself. There's many different forms of self-harm, but you usually do this due to self-hatred and punishment to yourself for something you believe that you've done wrong. Another extremely common one of a personality disorder is the fear of being abandoned or rejected. And when you have that feeling, you could, if you're in a relationship, you could be, he's going to leave me or she's going to leave me, and they're thinking of somebody else, they're doing things behind my back, I'm not good enough, so they're obviously going to leave me. And you're so scared of being rejected and being on your own that you can almost bugger it up yourself by constantly saying to this person, you're cheating on me, aren't you? Are you cheating on me? Blah blah blah. And it's very frustrating for the other person. And whether you've got a personality disorder or not, being rejected is a horrible thing. But for those with borderline, it is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And that's another reason why it makes it so difficult to control your emotions and the reactions from those emotions. Another one is that you can sometimes believe in things that aren't real or true, so basically having delusions, or you can see or hear things that aren't really there, so you would be having hallucinations, and they could be olfactory hallucinations from smell, auditory hallucinations from what you're hearing. You could have visual hallucinations. I can imagine, as I couldn't give you my personal view on this because I don't experience hallucinations, but I can imagine it is extremely scary to see, hear and feel things that aren't real. But what I do get is the delusions that things are happening that aren't really true, or I believe things that I suppose aren't true. Also, people with borderline have an extreme... Excuse me 1 minute, I've got my baby crying, hold on a sec. Is that they feel and see in complete black and white. There is no grey area. You either do or you don't. You don't maybe. If that makes sense. So you're either cheating on me or you're not. I don't really know how else I could explain that, but to think in complete black and white is extremely frustrating for people who care for you, because there are such things as grey areas, and trying to explain that to someone who has a personality disorder, the person with the personality disorder is just going to get angry because they don't believe there's such thing as grey areas. It'd be like if I said to you, you know, your left hand's your left hand, your right hand's your right hand. If I was then to tell you that your left's your right and your right's your left, you'd turn around and go, well, that's nonsense. That's not true. Your left is your left, and I know this because it's just true. You just know it because that's what you were brought up to believe. And when you have a personality disorder, because of experiences you've had in your past, traumatizations, etc., you build up belief systems to keep yourself safe. And by doing that, you believe things that aren't necessarily factual or true, but you do it to keep yourself safe. So I'm just trying to think of an example, is that a lot of what women with personality disorders believe is that men are just out there to harm you, either physically or sexually. And if I was to say, well, actually no, there are some out there that do want to hurt people, but the majority don't, then the person with the borderline is going to turn around and say, no, they're all out there to hurt you. And you're not going to make them believe anything other. And it can be frustrating for both parties, because for the person with the borderline, you're being told that what you believe is wrong, and for the person who isn't borderline, they're trying to explain to you where your thinking is a bit delusional, but they can't get through to you. So it's extremely difficult. I think something that annoys people about me is when it comes to numbers. So I'll say that 2 is a couple, 3 is a few, several is 7, and many is 10. Now that probably does sound some complete crazy shit to you, and yeah, it does sound a bit funny to me, but it's what I believe. And then to the extent that you said, oh, I'll just be a couple of minutes, you will be 2 minutes or less. And if you're not, I will get frustrated. I'll say, you lied to me. You said you were going to be a couple of minutes, and you weren't. Why did you lie to me? Do you not love me? Do you not respect what I think and feel? And as you can see how it can get so out of control and so unrelated to the original context that you're sort of the person who is talking to the person with the borderline is in a lose-lose situation. You know, they're not going to win. I think I'm going to stop the video for now because there's so much about borderline. I would be here all day trying to explain it to you. So I'll leave it here, and I hope that you've enjoyed listening to this video. And I'm also aware that this may cause some controversy and a lot of judgment and some negative comments. And to be fair, you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm entitled not to give a shit about your opinion. So if you've got anything negative to say, don't bother. It's really not worth it, because I'm not going to listen, and other borderlines aren't going to listen. Just be positive. That's what we want in life. Thank you.